Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here at Inside Nebraska. Before we get going, I encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these videos dropped directly into your feed. With me as always is Tim Verghese. I'm Zack Carpenter. Tim, man, it's been like 2 weeks I think since I've done one of these. I've been on the IR for a little bit with an illness. Been a little sick, so I'm trying to get my bearings back. It's been I think 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been 2 months. 2 years since the last time we did one of these, but
well, it was a lot different when we last did it.
Yeah, that's true. I think the last time we did it was after they beat Rutgers, right? It was the last one we did. Now things have changed substantially, but hey, it's like riding a tricycle, man. You get on it, you have no idea what you're doing. You're out of balance, you're falling all over the place, but then hey, at least you tried. That's me on these Rapid Recap videos, as many a YouTube commenter I think would say. But Tim, interesting conversation we're having right here, but interesting press conference today with Tony White and Marcus Satterfield especially. You were the one who picked up on it. Then I was looking, like, after you brought it up, I was like, yeah, it was kind of odd, like not odd but notable, just the dichotomy between the two, the tenors, the tone of the two press conferences.
Yeah, you can tell one of the coordinators is a future head coach in waiting or future head coach at some point down the line, and you can tell the other one is struggling a little bit. Like, and as he kind of has all year, just in terms of the on-field play, is kind of now matching the words, off the field. It just kind of felt like, they asked Tony White kind of decisively about, okay, what went wrong? And he's got decisive answers. He knows exactly what went wrong. He's taking ownership of the plays he called, having guys out of position. Like, he took it all on himself. And also was confident in the fact that his guys are going to he believes his guys are going to be able to bounce back, flush that performance, and his players match it, And then on the other side,
match the tone.
Yeah. Match the tone as well. We heard from Marquise Buford and Isaac Gifford and all of that today. But on the other side, it just kind of felt like he's like Marcus Satterfield still searching for answers 3 days after the fact of like what really went wrong and how to address it. They ask about perimeter blocking, and he's like, I knew that was an issue a couple weeks ago, but they're still running plays that hinge on perimeter blocking, and then, it's a lot of the, it's ownership of the offense and wanting to establish the run more. But again, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I've just gauged, I don't think there's been an issue with trying to establish the run. They've done a good job of trying. It's just not working, and that's another issue. It's not about trying to establish. You can say you're establishing it or trying to establish it, but everything they've tried right now is not working outside of the kind of the gimmicky offensive runs where it's like the handoffs to Ja'Cory Barney or Isaiah Nayor or, like...
No, that one didn't work.
That one didn't work, but the one to Janer and Bonner, like, they've tried. It's been some of these weird outside runs, and so... am I wrong in the establishing the run comp?
I think outside of that the first series where they were backed up on the 1 yard line and they had 2 run plays, and I think they called like 6 pass plays in a row. But I think they've tried. I just don't think that it's starting to become oddly evident that the power run game's not really this team's forte, which you wouldn't think would be the case, right? Like coming in, we thought run blocking and the run game was going to be a strength. I don't know if that goes back to the offseason of you have this special passer, a special thrower of the football who you want to try to establish more of a downfield passing attack. And I mean, Marcus Satterfield has now talked about it for 2 straight off seasons, but especially in this fall camp, where he's talking about we have to be able to throw the ball, we have to be able to throw the ball, we have to be able to throw the ball. And we saw it against Illinois. It was awesome. Like that the throw game was that I still hold. I'm sure you agree that was Dylan's best game. That was best performance.
Absolutely.
And even in the face of a loss. But right now, they're struggling in that area. They're struggling. I think it's the offensive line, like Dylan said after the game, the offensive line is doing a good job of consistently giving him enough time to throw. Just receivers just aren't getting open downfield.
Yeah, right. It's been an issue of getting off of press, and and you go back and watch the game. I do think there are options downfield. It is taking so long to get off of press that it's delaying routes, it's delaying windows and all of that, where it all feels kind of off schedule. And when he drops back at this point, where it's kind of depending on him to kind of make something happen rather than there's an open receiver, let me throw it to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best success that Dylan had was against zone coverages. He was able to eat those alive, and then I think once once it was established that these receivers have difficulty against man coverage, especially like you said, press man, teams are switching to that defensive scheme a little more. Then that's causing issues of creating, like you said, tighter windows where Dylan's not. I don't think he's not as confident fired in there because he knows that we've talked about him being risk averse, and I think he knows that it's riskier than normal going against throwing it to receivers who can't get separation, who can't get open. And that's so surprising because going into the Indiana game, I mean, my bold prediction was Jamal Banks was going to have first career, it was going to be his third career 100-yard game and first career 10-catch game. He had 2 catches for 33 yards. I thought it would be either Nair or Banks having that type of day. But I just went with Banks, and it was neither of them, which is so shocking because you got 2 6'4", 220 receivers going up against 2 IU corners who are significantly smaller, and those 2 dudes held up. That's what was that was like one of those under the radar. Maybe it's not under the radar. Just maybe my perspective was under the radar storyline coming out of that game was like one of the biggest question marks for the Indiana in that entire game was the Indiana smaller corners going against the bigger Nebraska receivers, and the Indiana corners won. Shout out to the short kings, but that was an issue on Saturday, was it not?
Yeah, it was, and that's just kind of been a thing now for a couple of weeks where it just kind of feels like Nebraska, the guys they brought in to try and add some life to this offense and give an outside presence, haven't had the impact specifically in the last few weeks that many thought they would. And you've got another tough test coming up this week, and you look down the stretch of the schedule, there's some tough DB matchups out there. Wisconsin's not going to be, they're going to match up well. Iowa, they've always got a good secondary. So there's at USC, so they're going to be tested in the future, and we're getting to the point where it's like, hey, we saw the highest snap count, I believe, for Ja'Cory Barney on Saturday. Carter Nelson, his role is improving. We start to see some of the young guys out there a little more, guys that are a little more explosive, can do some things after the catch. You can give them to them at the line of scrimmage, and they can kind of get off press a little bit. Like, I think we're at the point where I think anything's on the table for the offense. And
so obviously you're 10 times smarter with the X's and O's and the football schemes, and so bring it sort of full circle back to the offensive scheme with Marcus Satterfield. I mean, if they're having trouble getting off the press man, what's the solution schematically or play call, play design? I mean, you would think the bubble screens would work, but that would be one solution, but they can't figure out that part of it. And so what is it? It's going to be rub routes? What is I don't know.
It's that, like, it's like, but that's the thing. It's literally just, I think it's finding wins and getting to that point where teams are afraid to press you. Like right now, they're not afraid to press Nebraska because they believe they can get off those perimeter blocks when Nebraska tries to spread them horizontally. That's a coaching thing. You coach effort in wide receiver blocking. It's solely an effort thing. I've seen bad blocking receivers turn into good blocking receivers over the course of an offseason just off of coaching. It truly is just an effort and a coaching thing, in my opinion.
And a technique thing to not to get your hand placement right, not to overextend. If a guy beats you, then okay, a guy beats you. Don't compound the problem by blocking him in the side. That could be called a block in the back
or grabbing, all of that. Like it is a coaching thing. So it's all issues that kind of stack up on top of each other. You start to threaten a defense vertically. They no longer try to press you anymore. What I think is very fascinating. I understand why Nebraska is kind of struggling against these receivers specifically, but you would think an Isaiah Ney or a Jamal Banks are big enough that they can just get past that and stretch the field vertically where they can stack on top of receivers. That's the other thing too, is teaching receivers how to stack, because that's the whole thing. You get past press, you should be able to get in front of them, and kind of stack them vertically. We saw that from Indiana's receivers. We've seen that across college football of receivers doing a really good job of stacking and tracking the ball downfield. And so maybe it's a thing of just trying to change up the scheme and finding these little wins. Maybe condensing things a little bit to find the stuff you're really good at and hone in on that, because that's what Indiana does.
Yeah, because I think the most effective downfield passing play against Purdue and against Indiana, two times, one with Nair, one with Banks, is drawing a defensive pass interference. Those were two smart plays, by the way, by Indiana. Well, the Banks one, maybe not as much, but I mean, the very first play, or was it I think it was the first play, Nebraska's first offense play of the game, or maybe the first offense play of the second drive. where Nair got free. It would have been a 65-yard wide open touchdown pass, and whether it was Pons or the Jameer Johnson, I think it was, who held him on purpose, and okay, give up a 15-yard penalty, but we'll eat it, because that was going to be a wide open explosive play to make it a 7-7 game, and who knows where it goes from there. But when your number one most effective downfield passing play, or most consistent, is drawing pass interference plays, it's like, well, not every officiating crew is going to be produced where they're going to call everything. So you have to have some sort of solution in that regard. But getting back to the press conference today, and we'll wrap up with this, is we didn't touch on it, that Satterfield, after many times in the offseason, like we said, of talking about getting the downfield passing game going, he was asked today about the commitment to the run game, and he said, I think it's a me thing where I need to stay committed to the run game. But this is the thing that I was telling you, where I recognized is, like, he just sounded like almost not defeated, but it very much sounded like he might as well have been saying, yeah, Coach Rule's been telling me I need to continue to stick to the run game or call more run plays. That's just what it felt like from my vantage point.
And who knows? Maybe they get back to that this week. And maybe infuse more Heinrich Harburg in there to try and give the running game some type of jolt. Maybe infuse something in there. But yeah, like, it's just, there's a lot of issues. Like, again, like, teams are just comfortable pressing Nebraska right now because they feel they can do it. And until Nebraska shows otherwise, and that it comes down to. And what is very confusing, and not confusing, but just I guess, if you want to be alarmed by something, be alarmed by this. Like, from the start of the season, perimeter blocking and beating press has been an emphasis for this team. They recognize in this fall camp itself that was a struggle for this team. I remember talking to Jalen Lloyd and Ja'Cory Barney about that out here early, like very, very early in the season. Talking to Jamal Banks about it, Isaiah Nair about it, and how they work that in practice. But it's not showing up on the field. We're 7 weeks into the season now. They had a bye week to kind of work on it. You thought if it hadn't gotten fixed first half of the season, they drill it over the bye week. It gets fixed out of the bye week. Hasn't gotten fixed yet, and at this point, it's like, will it?
Yeah, Alex Bullock, I think, is the one exception, right? He's the one exception.
And even Ja'Cory, like, to his credit, Ja'Cory Barney's small, but he puts an effort, and he does a good job of squaring up and being physical with guys, and forcing the contact. Like, he's going up there, and he wants to get hands on you. I think that's something we haven't really seen with some of the others in the room. And it also leads you to wonder, I understand that Malachi Coleman has work to do in the weight room and in the playbook and learning everything and learning how to be a true receiver and running all the routes, but he was a damn good run blocker.
He was. Last year, that was one of the storylines that emerged, like, during a season of negativity. That was one of the emerging positive storylines. Like, wow, this kid's buying into it, and he was the borderline 5-star receiver who's now putting in the effort to actually be an effective run blocker, and he was one of their best run blockers at the receiver position.
Right. So it's like, do you see him down the stretch of the year? I don't think he's played in anything yet, but you've got 4 games to use him. Do we see him a little more? I think you played in 1 game, so I think he's got 3 more left.
I don't think he has. I think
he was on a block. He had 1 special teams rep where he almost blocked a punt.
Okay. Against who? Rutgers?
Yeah, I remember seeing just his name pop up on the activity or the players that have
the player participation sheet.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a. You're going. I damn near keep forgetting that they're playing Ohio State this weekend, because there's so many issues in house and like things to solve that it's like, oh yeah, they're going to play Ohio State.
Arguably the best roster again, like. Charles Huff, who's been around some really, really good teams.
Marshall head coach?
Yeah, Marshall head coach. Called that the best roster he's ever seen. Multiple teams that have played Ohio State this year call that the best roster they've ever seen. They have a loss on their record. They do. But this is a really, really good football. I said going into last week, the Indiana game, and again, no one could have predicted the game going the way it did. Some of us had predicted losses. We could have seen a world where they lost, but not to that level. I thought Nebraska, there were certain elements they may have the Jimmy and Joe advantage, where they've got better dudes. They don't have it in anywhere this week. I think
long term they have a quarterback position, but I still think that if whatever, I don't even want to go down that road. I was about to add another 10 minutes to this video if I started going, but I mean, they have Ohio State, number 4 team in the country, and you cannot get into a shootout with that team. You can't. You have to establish the run again. Bring it full circle. So maybe we do see a Malachi Coleman. Maybe not. But maybe we see more snaps for an Alex Bullock, because if they want to be competitive, if they want to have it be a 1 or 2 score game going into the fourth quarter, then you hold on to the ball. You need to establish the pace and the rhythm. You have to win in the trenches, and that's a. We thought it was going to be a strength, maybe not. I still think it probably would be a matchup advantage. Nebraska's defensive line against Ohio State's offensive line, especially if they don't have is it Josh Simmons?
Josh Simmons.
The tackle, right? Who got hurt in the Oregon game. So I haven't even checked his status. I don't know.
I've not checked either.
Sounded like it was a significant injury, and I'm so tunnel vision right now on Nebraska, and honestly just being not sick. So we're back, we're established, we're here, going to Columbus. But yeah, if you want to even be competitive in that game and make sure that you don't get run off the field or get the break speed off you, then you need to have a game plan almost like the Colorado game last year, where they were establishing it and not trying to outscore, or not outscore them. You know what I mean? Like have a shootout. Yeah. Yep. I guess I already said that, but all right. That's going to do it for us. Anything else to add? You went and saw Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys.
Yeah, check out our coverage. We were out in Kansas City last week to go see Dawson Merritt at Blue Valley. So check out our coverage over at InsideNebraska.com. We've also got videos up over at our YouTube channel where you're watching this right now. We'll also have a better Ohio State preview in our bold prediction tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Yeah,
because at the end of this, it's like, okay, well, they're playing Ohio State. Kind of forget about it. We haven't even mentioned that. We probably should mention that they're playing the best team on their schedule. Yeah. But Tim, you stole my lines. I was going to do the sign off. Okay. Tim's going to take care of the sign off today.
Yeah, well, that'll probably do it for us here in Inside Nebraska. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.
Well said, Tim. Well said, Tim.